In Lesson 2 we covered the DAW, and now there was quite a bit of information to remember, a lot of key components, of course, in the Digital Audio Workstation that we have to remember. Now, one of the most important things to keep in mind is, of course, the preparation. What it's going to take as far as setting everything up, as far as the particular project names, files, locations, our digital audio preferences, our recording file types, setting hardware, and of course any particular buffer size that we need to do. And so in the following lesson I'll go over what we need to cover and everything we need to have to get ready to record. Now, it's important to remember when preparing a project in the DAW, of course, we get proper organization here in our files. We want to first have a proper project name and location, so you want to name your file well. You want to have a folder on your CPU or external hard drive where all your recordings are going to go. You want to place all your projects in a particular place, where they're going to be easy to find and easy to back up. What you want to remember is, of course, to keep the whole file structure together. Be careful when you are creating a new project folder that you put it in a new location and save it well, because as you work with the DAW, you got to remember you're working with a folder that includes a proprietary file, and it's going to have a collection of assets. These are going to vary from DAW to DAW, but it's always going to be a folder, and inside will be a project file. And next to that will be the folder structure that holds all the assets. As you start working, you'll see more and more assets created. Here's a particular example of Ableton Live. As you can see, these are some of the samples that are all the particular audio files that are created within the project file. So remember to always, of course, keep in mind proper organization when dealing with keeping your project folder organized, and it'll make things easier when you want to go ahead and edit or go back to add to your original recording. Now, number 2, what you want to do is actually set your digital audio preferences, and these can either be done on the DAW or on the driver for the audio interface itself. But what you want to make sure you have is, and which is ideal in a studio recording, or for recording, excuse me, is you want to have your sample rate set to about 48,000. What this is going to basically be a sample rate of 48 kilohertz, and that's about 48,000 samples per second. As remember the sampling rule, the higher the sampling rate, the higher the frequency that can be represented in accuracy in the digital domain. And as far as your bit depth, you want to have that set at 24 because that's going to give you the wider dynamic range when recording in a studio environment. Now, the third thing to remember is setting and, of course, choosing the right file type to record. What we want to make sure we have is an uncompressed file type because these are going to be the highest quality to use. And when possible, of course, what is suggested is to make sure that we use a broadcast WAV file or either an AIFF file so that we can choose, of course, the highest level of quality when recording. And finally, the last things to remember, of course, setting the hardware in your DAW. Make sure you have the DAW configured to work with your audio interfaces, so you want to make sure your DAW is configured to work with your audio in and out. And as well as you want to make sure that your buffer size is set to around 128. Now that's going to work best in the recording environment because if you do run a larger buffer size, you got to remember that there of course will be a delay. So obviously having a lower buffer size will have less latency, less delay. But those are some of the things that you have to remember, of course, when setting up recording and preparing a project. And I hope everyone got to learn a little bit here as far as the fundamentals when getting ready to record. Thank you, everyone, and hope everyone enjoyed.